Okay, question 4a. Back to those conditions. Simple random sample. They did tell us that. And n is greater than 30 because it's 35. By the way, we know that biological data usually comes from a normal distribution. So we'd probably be okay if the n was 25 to say, well, even though n isn't 30, the population data is normally distributed. Biological data, heart rates are typically distributed normally. Okay, part B, construct a 95% confidence interval. Okay, so I just want to make the point here that if we were doing if I did make you do this by hand, it might help you understand a little bit. If I did make you do a confidence interval for means by hand, it would work the same way as proportions, right? We do a sample proportion, and then we add and subtract some kind of standard error, margin of error from it. So I'm going to do the same thing here. It would be, I get my sample mean, and I add and subtract the margin of error. It would just be however many standard deviations I choose. Standard deviation would be estimated by the sample standard deviation over root n. And then instead of multiplying by some z value, we would multiply by some t value. Right? And it works exactly the same way for the confidence interval, only we wouldn't use this chart. Right? This chart's only for the normal distribution. The numbers would be similar, but they wouldn't be the same, and they depend on the sample size. So that's why I'm not making you do this, but I do want you to know it works pretty much the same way. It's just the underlying distribution is different. It's the t distribution. So we're going to use Statcrunch. 90% confidence interval. So I have a sample 67, sample standard deviation of 8, and 35 people. Okay, so let's see if I can remember all that. When I go into Statcrunch, let's see, I would go to stat, and we're doing a t-stat, and we have one sample, and we have a summary. The average, the mean heart rate was 67, standard deviation 8. We had 35 21-year-old men, and we want a confidence interval, I believe it was 90. And then I hit compute, and it gives me my answer. 64.7 to 69.3. 64.7 to 69.3 beats per minute. Okay, and then I'll have to include that when I answer part C here. So let's do that. Part C. And this one kind of goes the same. Right, the interpretation, we are 90% confident that the mean resting heart rate of 21-year-old males is between 64.7 and 69.3 beats per, don't forget your units, beats per minute.